if you're not setting expectations of what is going to happen next, you're really missing an opportunity. And every good agent, I think, should do that in some way, shape, or fashion, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a video, whether it's an email, whether it's something, right? But people want to know what's happening next, right? Welcome back to the Better Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Lavik, and today we're talking about real estate and your real estate business and growth. Those are the topics we typically like to cover, and I like to go over things of what's working now and what has worked in the past, and how can we become a better agent every day as we continue to work in the real estate business. That's what I'm doing. I've been in the real estate business for over 20 years and continue to build my team and continue to evolve our business and be relevant to the consumer. And I want to bring on lots of guests that also want to explore that topic. And so today I've got a great guest for you guys. I've got Terra Beaver. She's one of the top agents just north of Madison area up in the Lakes region. And so she'll have, I'm sure, some great insights to share with y'all, but I'm excited about our dialogue and our conversation to see kind of where it leads. And hopefully you can gain some insight by listening to our podcast today. Terra, I'll turn it over to you. Why don't you share with our guests just a little more information about your background and kind of what brought you here and where we're at today.
All right. Thanks, Josh, for having me. So a little bit about me. I've been in real estate since 2014. Did it part-time until 2015, and then basically, just kind of went from there. Got my broker's license in 23, kind of have some plans with that, but I just haven't gone anywhere with those yet. But prior to that, I worked as a drug and alcohol counselor in Madison for a little bit. Then I went into working with children with autism and special needs. So completely different than, than real estate.
I know, right? A drug and alcohol counselor versus helping people with real estate. I mean, in some ways, you're still counseling, right? You're still advising, giving advice, what needs to happen, but a little bit different perspective there on substances versus properties and property values and that type of thing. Giving advice, but just in a different capacity. So
exactly.
However, I'm sure a lot of those listening and empathy kind of skills that you developed in that path and that career probably have transferred over to the real estate business, I would imagine. Would that be a fair statement?
Oh, yes, exactly. That's kind of what ended my drug and alcohol counseling career, was too much empathy.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Oh man, I know that's gotta be hard dealing with people that are sucked into that world and just trying to get off the substances. So yeah, totally is worthy career path, but now real estate. So
no real estate. Yep.
Well, awesome. And you're up near Castle Rock Lake, right? Lake Petenwell, is that area?
We're in New Lisbon. So a few minutes from Castle Rock, basically Juneau County native. So yeah, Castle Rock was always in the Wisconsin River, was always our vacation camping trips because it was just down the road. That's where our parents went. So yeah, a lot of time, and it's definitely changed along, the 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, your path, I think, is kind of interesting too, right? It started out kind of part-time, like you said, and then you kind of went into more full-time about a year later. I had a similar path, right? I started kind of part-time, and I was part-time waiting tables, bartending, right? I mean, I was doing more of that side of customer service, right? Handing out drinks rather than helping people stopping drinking. But anyway, it's a different pathway, but I think it's an interesting path because I think this business is one that really rewards commitment and dedication, right? I think it's really hard to make a decent living just doing it part-time, just because I think there's just so much to learn and so much to do and so much just to understand, even about your local market, whether that's up in, near the lakes, near your area, near Lisbon, or I'm in the Madison area. So, just even understanding your market, I mean, that can take a year in itself just to fully understand like what's happening, what are the trends, what are the interesting neighborhoods, unique things. And so taking that commitment, if there are agents listening, I think, that are part-time, that are wondering, well, should I go in and do it full time? Well, I think if you do that, what I find is like you're able to really just dive deep and really understand what is happening in the market. And then as a result, I think you're just able to give that much better advice to your potential clients. So that's what I've noticed. I don't know, anything similar on your end that you've noticed when you
No,
kind of made
yeah, I think
part-time to full time?
yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, it's when you get into it, there's so much more than real estate than writing contracts and, negotiating. It's knowing, your market, like where I'm at. And I'm sure even in Madison, there's parts of Madison that are completely different, on this side of town versus this side of town.
Yeah.
I'm very rural. And so between New Lisbon and Necedah and Mauston, the housing market can be different. It
Yeah.
can be a seller's market in Necedah, but New Lisbon maybe is more of a buyer's market or more balanced. And knowing that, 10-mile difference, knowing the difference between that allows me then when I'm working with my clients to give that feedback. It's not the national average is still a seller's market. Well, that doesn't impact little old New Lisbon in the middle of Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yeah, so that also leads, I think, to an interesting point, right? Because how much different, I mean, I know, because one of the topics you had put in that we were kind of chatting about before starting our episode today was kind of how, maybe some of that local knowledge really can help beat some of the algorithms out there, right? Like I can go online and just get an automated estimated value on a property, but in your area, and I've noticed it even in the Madison area, some of the more rural parts, like there's not as much data, there's not as much of an algorithm, there's not as much info and insight to be understood there. And so some of these automated values, I think, can be way off. I mean, they can be wildly inaccurate just because there's fewer sales and there's less data and less insight in terms of what is actually happening in those markets. So do you have anything to add that you think that you've noticed in terms of understanding your local market and in terms of, I don't know, market data or even automated values or anything like that?
Yeah. So I always do the automated values for my house because I know my house well and I know my market well enough to know where it fits in. And I have the market value coming from like 3 or 4 different places.
Yeah.
And so they're always different, but though I got one the other day that said my house was like 575. And as a consumer, I'd be like, oh my God, that's incredible. But as a realtor, I know that's not even in the realm of what my house is worth. In no way as a realtor would I list that for that price. But it's just kind of funny that that comes in and people if they don't know what all goes into us doing a market report, then yeah, that number can be very deceiving. And so when we're meeting with them and they're like, well, hey, Zillow says, I understand what Zillow says, but then kind of that education. And sometimes there's people who just don't want to budge off of what that Zestimate or what Redfin or Realtor.com gives them. So yeah, that's
Sure.
where definitely knowing your market and being able to give them that information can help.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I always look at it too in terms of, okay, well, that's okay. One metric might be this one automated value. Maybe another one is a different automated value. Maybe another one is a different one. But at the end of the day, right, those other comparable sales that are more recent, relevant, actual comparable, like how well do you know those homes? And if you've walked through any of those homes, how much more insight can you really give to your clients and say, yeah, well, this house, I just went through it, 2 months ago and it's got X, Y, and Z, and it's got this that's that better or not as good or whatever it might be, however it compares. I think having those insights and nuances in terms of value really helps, I think, differentiate you as an agent and understanding your market. So if you're not walking through lots of properties, definitely get out there, walk through lots of properties, get to know your market inside and out. So I think that's definitely helpful.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. What else do you think it takes so that, you've been in this business quite a while, right? 2014, right? Most agents, if you can make it past kind of that 5-year mark, like that's a veteran agent for sure. So I would definitely call you that. I mean, what do you think have been some of the keys to your success throughout the years and really helped catapult maybe your success that really helped differentiate you or really helped you be like, okay, yeah, no, I can make this. I'm not just part-time. I'm a full-time agent. This is what I do, and I'm going to be successful. What do you think really works for you, and what's your superpower?
I mean, to be real, it did take me quite a few years to actually come out ahead in real estate. So it wasn't
So
easy money.
pause. Quite a few years is how many years?
Let's see. So 2014, about 4 years.
About 4 years. Okay.
Yep.
So if you're listening to this and you're in year 2 or 3, keep going, because
Yes.
at year 4, at least for you, is when you kind of turn the corner.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. What else happened in year 4? What else happened that year? Why do you think that was the turning point?
Well, I finally joined a brokerage that taught me how to work leads, how to use a CRM, how to follow up, all those things. I had the tools previously at other brokerages, just I didn't know how to use them. So my listings, my buyers, they were just kind of by the grace of God that I even knew how to do anything with them. I mean, I was keeping track of everything on paper because I had no idea how to be a productive realtor. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So then, yeah, I joined a team out of DeForest actually.
Okay.
And it, yeah, I mean, it's like it clicked. So I took the skills I had in knowing how to work with people, but now I could just make it all the more, meaningful and not
Hmm.
just 10 clients. Now it's 30, 40, 50, 60 clients, because I knew how
Totally.
to work them and I knew how to track them. And it wasn't me going through the notebook like an agent in 1950, trying
Yeah.
to see who I got to follow up with.
Yeah. So how to work leads, working your CRM, knowing your CRM, not just saying, yeah, I know how to log in, but actually adding people to that CRM and saying, okay, then you're adding tasks to follow up, or what's your system, or how does your cadence work? I mean, what did that look like?
Yeah, definitely the tasks. Once I got them into the CRM, a task. So then it's like, okay, whether they're a weekly follow up, a bi-weekly follow up, or whatever.
Yeah.
But then also learning where that client fell on the spectrum. Are they somebody who's looking to buy in the next 30 days? That
Yeah.
means they need more follow up and more check in versus somebody who's maybe 6 to 12 months out. And then it's, you still check in, but I'm not checking in every week. Like, hey, did you see a house? And, I see this one popped up. It's a little, so I gauged my communication and my follow up to meet my clients.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, using that CRM and setting up those follow ups, it kept me on track.
Yep.
And, they knew. And then I also set the expectation. Okay, I'll reach out to you later this week unless you give me a call first. Or, you know what, I'll touch base in 30 days unless you reach out to me first. So it just from there, it just grew. And I mean, it took away a lot of the chasing because I had the system in place and knew what I was supposed to do that day.
Right. You're not always chasing new leads. If you have existing leads, once you build up that pipeline and enough people, right, now it's just following up with an irregular cadence and a regular weekly or monthly or whatever schedule cadence you want. But I think you make an interesting point, right? Because your business didn't take off for 4 years, and it took off when you did that. You made a couple changes, you changed brokerages, got in a different environment. Okay. Now, I'm not saying you have to change brokerages, but getting in a different environment, changing your environment, changing your activities, and going all in on your database, on your CRM, because that is probably the most critical tool of a realtor to build a consistent business, right? So if you're not all in on your CRM, like you're just, yeah, I know how to log in and I can add people, but I don't think about it or I don't look at it very often, like you're not in enough. You need to go all in and look at it every single day and add to it and set your tasks, set your follow-up, set your cadence. And if you do, well, then suddenly something happens and you already said it, right? You're going to hit 30, 40, 50, 80 sales or whatever it's going to be. And I experienced the same thing. Okay, I started with a CRM. It was called my Outlook email. And I would enter people in as an Outlook contact when I first started. And I would just simply add a tag that I wanted to add them to my email newsletter list, right? And once a month, I would email them something. And then I also added them to different weekly or monthly calls as well, or quarterly calls too. Simple cadence. You can add a tag, right? It doesn't need to be complicated. But obviously, there's tons of CRMs out there. There's different ones, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail, right? If the best CRM is the one you use, and at the end of the day, you got to go all in on it, right? You got to create the tags, create the templates, update the templates, know what they say, know what's being sent out, fully communicate and understand, get the right message so that it meets the people where they are. You don't, if they're within 30 days, that's a hot lead. They need more communication. They need to hear from you more frequently. If they're not, great, then they don't. And that's fine too. But just like, know how it works, dive into it. I can't echo that thought enough because I've experienced it as well. And when it works, it's unbelievable, right? You think, oh my gosh, I've been checking in with these people like once a month. And then now suddenly they're at a point, okay, we're ready to go. Let's set up a meeting. And then boom, they buy like the next week or they sell their house, either one, right?
Right.
I mean, it's like they get to a point where they're ready. And then if you're the top of mind agent that has stayed in touch and provided value throughout the process over the last 6 to 12 months or however long it's been, right? Like you will get the business, you will get that opportunity as long as you continue to stay in touch. So I love that.
Yeah, definitely.
Anything else that comes out for you that you thought as I was speaking? I was kind of rambling, I feel like, but anything else that you stood out that I know you mentioned, so you have kind of an interesting specialty up near you, right? Because you said a lot of rural properties, but also more like waterfront, vacation, and acreage types of properties. Do you want to? How did you get into that, or how did you define, what you think is your niche, and how did you identify that?
So that prior brokerage I mentioned out of DeForest, they were huge on the lakes. So it was really great because I was able to take my experience of growing up on the lakes, and then I was able to learn, about all the different associations, about setback rules, about all that stuff. So then combining them and then just working those leads, it just really that's kind of where I fell into then that market a little bit more. And then also, I mean, I'm literally 9 minutes from Castle Rock Lake.
Yeah.
So I'm out of it enough, I'm not in like those subdivisions around there, but I'm there enough to know. And a lot of our clients are still that I'm then working are still like past clients and stuff like that. I get a little bit of new lake buyers, but a lot of them are going to be past clients that are still reaching out. We bought a lot and things changed, and now we want to sell it. We want to buy in the new Copper Point developments. So
Mhm.
that's kind of where a lot, and that's a hard thing in itself too, because each association has its own HOA, while some of them are similar. So being able to track down the HOA docs, knowing, the Wisconsin River, the power company, their setbacks, what that all entails, so that's a huge thing to like stay on top of, and, always educating myself, and has anything changed, or, what are the new, riparian rules and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think, you kind of developed your niche. Kind of what I heard also is like it's right in your backyard. So, and like it's your niche sort of found you, like you live there, you are experiencing this environment, you're experiencing these types of properties. And so if you're, trying to be the waterfront specialist, but you don't live near waterfront, like that's a problem. Okay. Right. Or if you're trying to be the agriculture land specialist, but you don't live and eat and breathe and understand land, like that's not the niche for you. So, in
Right.
some ways your niche can become whatever you're going to be most passionate, excited about, and should be a natural fit, right? Like what are you naturally excited about? Like I don't know, I've talked to several people that maybe they own even rental properties, and then they kind of get into having investment be a part of their niche and a part of their specialty. And I think that's great, right? Whatever it is for you, I think your niche can be whatever you want, but it should be something that you're excited about and you want to learn more about. And, you kind of said it before too, right? You fell into it based on some of your brokerage experience at at the last company, and you developed that niche and developed that expertise just by diving into the documents and just by learning more and going further. And so I think you can do that too. Be willing to really dive further and go deeper on your niche. I think that's great advice for anyone out there struggling, like, oh my gosh, what niche should I choose, right? Choose the one you're going to be and willing to be most excited about for the longest period of time, and like that's a natural fit for you. I think if you do that, then your odds of success go way up. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, what about, I mean, I know, we talked a little bit about kind of the database and the CRM and how the importance of that is. Maybe let's shift gears a little bit and talk maybe more systems and process and how what maybe has worked for you in the past, right? That you think really makes a difference and that's super important in terms of the operations, right? I mean, because we all know that real estate can be emotional, right? People get highs and lows and oh my gosh, I'm so excited to get this property. Oh my gosh, I just did the inspection and now I found something. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. Oh my gosh, the appraisal didn't come through, right? Or whatever it might be. And now you've got this negotiation, this hardship to deal with. So it can be emotional, but I think some of what can work to work through those emotions is having sort of a systematic process to really fully understand your client, understand what's most important to them, fully understand what's about the inspection that came up or what is it that's happening. And so I don't know, I'm just curious to hear if there's any kind of systems or operations things that you do or have found to be really successful in your business.
Yeah. And this is a constant evolving system that I have because as I get feedback back from, clients, then I kind of modify it. But one of the things that I found, especially the last couple of years where I've, my transactions have really increased, is like sometimes I would maybe miss something or forget to explain something to somebody, ahead of time. So what I do now is whenever I get an accepted offer, the first thing I do, seller or buyer, whatever I do, is I create like a next steps email. I put all the deadlines on there, what to expect and things like that. And then I also started including videos at each step for both sides to be like, okay, so the home inspection is today or tomorrow, whatever it may be. This is what we can expect. So to the seller, this is what we can expect. It is not trying to assure them that we're going to see 100-page home inspection, but it
Yeah.
doesn't reflect that their house is falling apart or that they're being nitpicky. This is just what they're looking for. To the buyer, I do the same thing. I'm like, don't be overwhelmed by your home inspection report. As we talked about earlier, when you get that report, we'll look at it together and these are the things we're going to look at. So I find that putting it into a video and like attaching it to their email at that step has really helped and kind of get them in the right mindset. Because when I haven't, and we've gotten a report that has maybe had, some things that as an agent we would definitely want to get, addressed. Those clients have been more like, oh my God, this house, I got to get out of it. I don't want it. It's a death trap. It's a da 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 da. Versus educating them firsthand and then prior to that experience of what to expect. And then the same with the appraisal. Your appraisal is today. This is what we anticipate. If it comes back, low or comes back with conditions, we'll address those. But these are what could possibly happen. But this is what I will do in the meantime, So just the reassurance again of every step and every contingency, in addition to our normal communication. But then they can go back to the video, they can look at it again, they can, just be like, okay, this is what is going to happen, kind of address the elephant before it gets in the room.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. And it's something that every agent should do, right? It's setting those expectations. So whether you do it in an email or with a video or with something, right? Like if you're not setting expectations of what is going to happen next, you're really missing an opportunity. And every good agent, I think, should do that in some way, shape, or fashion, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a video, whether it's an email, whether it's something, right? But people want to know what's happening next, right? They don't do this every day, right? You and I do. Okay. We do this full time every day. This is what we do. This is our business. But most people, buy or sell every 7 to 10. I think the number is actually up to like 11 or 12 years. Okay. So people in some communities, at least around Madison, heck, Monona, for gosh sakes, I think they stay there for like 40 or 50 years. They don't hardly ever move. It's like, how often? People don't do this every day, okay? So they want to know and want to understand what is happening next. What's next? If you don't have a system for telling your clients and of what happens next, then that is absolutely something you should build in your business today, for sure. I've done it as well in my business, and we even send out a series of videos even before we meet the people. Right? Here's what the process is. Here's what's going to happen. Here's this part, and if they watch them all, great. Half the time, sometimes they don't. they probably need reminders. Hey, by the way, remember I told you about this before, and then they need reminders, right? So people need to expect it and understand, but that's okay. But I think at the end of the day, if I'm the professional and you're the professional, it's our job to really to preempt some of those conversations and know, yeah, this is what's going to happen next. This is what is likely to come up. This is, the inspection or whatever. And I think if you can do that in an effective way, then yeah, people definitely feel more comfortable, more at ease, know what's going to happen. Every once in a while, though, you do get an older home, right? And maybe a lot of things do come up on the inspection, and if that does happen, I think you got to deal with them. You can't just sweep it under the rug and assume that, oh, well, it's not a big deal. No, if it's a big deal and your client feels like it's a big deal, then meet them where they're at and say, you know what, I understand this is a big deal to you. And if we need to walk away from this deal, then by all means, I'll do everything in my power to help you do that. But let's explore this further and make sure that, we fully understand what is happening and what maybe might be done to correct it and maybe find a way to move forward. If we can't move forward, right, you got to kind of side with your clients. If that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. But I think sometimes on especially older homes, there's oftentimes things that
Yeah.
people have lived there. If they've lived there a long time, their codes change over time, and people don't always fix things if they don't think about it or they don't know about it. So that can happen too. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely the codes issue with electrical and some of the plumbing is one thing that I always try to premise to the buyers. You're going to see this. I almost guarantee you're going to see that
Yeah.
an outlet is not going to be grounded, or it's not going to have the third prong or something like that. I said, I can guarantee that's going to be the case, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Those are easier fixes than, like I just had one 2 weeks ago that we found out the house was built on railroad track.
Oh my gosh. How would
First,
you have known that? That's, hardly
exactly.
ever see that. That's
Yeah.
wild.
So
Yeah.
I mean, the electrical is a lot easier to fix than, a whole house on that. So yeah, just again, like even before the appraisal, I'm like, okay, so this could come up, this could come up. Again, it's just that education. And then also I find that it usually helps them control their emotions a little bit better if they kind of expect what could be happening. And,
Totally.
because we're human, we make emotional decisions. And yeah, if and I've had clients who like make it emotional. Yep, I want out of this contract right now. There's 16 things wrong with the house. Okay, let's breathe. We still got 6 days before our
Yeah.
contingency's up. Let's look at it, talk about it, but let's
Yeah.
not make any decisions till tomorrow. And many of the times, once we've gone through them together, we were able to hold the offer together. It was just
Sure.
an emotional decision, which I can totally understand.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand that too. I mean, it's if you some of those right things, ungrounded outlets, right? Like that's a common occurrence, but it doesn't mean it can't be fixed. It doesn't mean you can't still live there, right?
Right.
Yeah, interesting. Well, cool. Well, Tara, I appreciate where this conversation has led today. But yeah, I mean, we kind of covered a lot of ground, right? How to go from part-time to full-time and really launching your career, dedicating your time and really fully understanding your CRM and your database and those follow-ups, how important and critical that can be to your success. And if people do that, totally will make a big difference. Getting in a different environment too can help change, right? Whether it's joining a team or a different brokerage or somehow changing your environment, who you're around, I think can help influence how you operate as well. So if you feel like you're stuck or stagnated, like you're not a tree, you can move. Okay. So it's okay. Figure out where you need to go and go there and just
Right.
explore what the opportunities might be. And I've only changed brokerages, I think 3 different times, and each time I changed, it was for the better. And I just got in a different environment, executed differently and different tasks, and both times, all 3 times, my business grew. So I think if that's you and you're listening to this, I think explore that option if it's the right time. I'm not saying we need to change like every year, but like it's okay. And then constantly evolving your systems to really upgrading, I think is super important as well. Having those next steps, touches, those emails, those videos, whatever it is for you. So anything else that you think is important for our listeners to hear before we sign off, or anything else you want to let people know before we wrap up our show today?
just telling agents, I just want agents to stay real. Clients, while they're looking for professionalism, they're also looking for us to be human. They want to connect and know that you connecting with them at an emotional level and understanding them while still, keeping that professionalism. I think that's, at least for me, that's the feedback I get from a lot of our past clients is they're coming back because they felt like I understood them, but also that I worked for them. So just being yourself. I mean, I don't know. That's just the biggest thing I want to say is just be yourself.
Yeah.
Don't be salesy. The properties will sell itself. We're not used car salesmen. So go in there, do just do what they're asking and, the sales will come.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think it is a sales business, but the essence of, I think, a good salesperson is one that is totally authentic, that's listening to their clients, that's understanding their clients. They're listening and hearing what's important to them. And if you do that and you identify the right properties out there that align with what they truly want, the sale is a natural occurrence, just like what you said, right? The house will sell itself. And all you have to do is be a good listener and a good counselor and a good advisor. And if you do that and you're fully you and authentic and not overly salesy, like totally, I couldn't agree more. And definitely want to encourage people to do that, right? Step into your authentic self, be true to you. And yeah, people are drawn to that for sure. So
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I loved our conversation today, Tara. So thank you. Thank you again so much for coming on the show on the Better Agent podcast. And yeah, if you're looking to grow, tune in next time to other guests that we have and other topics and discussions we have about growing your real estate business and becoming a better agent every single day. So again, I'm your host, Josh Lavik, and I've got Terra Beaver with me. And that's been our show for today. And I hope you enjoyed the Better Agent podcast. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to the Better Agent Podcast. I hope you found today's insights valuable. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. Stay tuned for more tips, Q&A sessions, and sneak peeks into our 21-day challenge. To get full access of our show notes and more details on the 21-day challenge, go to abetterrealestateexperience.com. Keep striving for greatness, and I'll see you on the next episode.